A transition matrix shows probability of change in one generation. To examine changes over more than one generation, use powers of matrix P. So consider, for example, from mother to child. From mother to child is one transition. But if you go from mother to child to grandchild, that's actually two transitions. Or mother to child to grandchild to great-grandchild. If I was going from mother to great-grandchild, that would actually be three transitions. So remember what we've done in an earlier example. Here was the transition matrix P right here. But I said the probability of going from upper class to lower class was 0.12. And sometimes I'll put a 1 right there to show that it's in one transition. That's what that transition matrix shows, okay? But now we're going to figure out probability from going from upper to lower in more than one transition or more than one generation, okay? If your mother is upper class, if the mother is upper class, what's the probability that the grandchild is upper class? That kind of thing. So we've got this transition matrix, and part A says find p squared. So you want to get some sort of matrix calculator because you don't want to do this by hand. If you had to do it by hand, you'd take the matrix and write it twice, and you'd multiply rows times columns. It's kind of a pain with all the decimals. So trust me on this one. Find a matrix calculator. Here's one. This is a good one. And we would want to enter that in. All of these numbers should be between 0 and 1. All of these rows should have a sum of 1. If not, something is wrong. Okay, so here's the matrix. All we want to do is take that matrix, A, and square it. I bumped up the significant digits to 9 just because I know you're going to end up having a lot of decimals here at some point. But for right now, I don't need 9 sig figs. It just gives me these. It just gives me these 4, and that's fine. Okay. So here's your p squared right here. These values. So let's write them down. .4729, 0.3948, 0.1323, 0.2196, 0.5557, 0.2247, 0.1944, 0.462, 0.3436. Now remember what we're talking about. We're talking about going from lower, middle, and upper to lower, middle, and upper. So I like to go ahead and label the states along the side there just so I can kind of remind myself of what in the world I'm talking about. LMU, lower, middle, upper. So part B says, find the probability that a middle class person has an upper class grandchild. So remember, going to a grandchild is 2 transitions. And that's what we have here when we have p squared, is we're showing those 2 transitions. So we want to go from middle to upper. So probability from middle to upper in 2 transitions. Okay, does anybody see that number from middle to upper? It's this one right here, 0.2247. Part C says find the probability that an upper class person has a lower class grandchild. So the grandchild is what indicates that it's 2 transitions. So from upper to lower in two transitions, from upper to lower in two transitions is this number right here, 0.1944. Not too bad when you have a matrix calculator. If you had to do that by hand, that'd be kind of rough, all right? But not too bad when the calculator does all the work for you. Yes?
Why did you say you put 9 in the decimal number again?
Why did I put...
for the matrix thing, why did you say you put 9 in there?
Oh, when I bumped up the sig figs, I didn't have to do it there, but if I only did like 2, I'm not going to like the way that it rounds, okay? So I happen to know what comes later. If I had done 4 here, I would have been fine. But since I know what's coming later, I just went ahead and bumped it up, to something higher than what I will need, I think, okay? So as far as the rounding, good question. What are you going to have to round to? Just make sure you do whatever MathXL does. If it's up to me, I personally like 4. I don't like doing more than 4. I will here in the next example or two. But normally I like 4 or less, okay? But if this is supposed to be 4 decimals, you don't want to only show me 2, okay? So that's why I bumped up the sig figs. Good question. Number 5, P is the transition matrix. Okay, it's the same matrix, right? It says find P3. Okay, find P3. Well, we've already got it typed in here, so really all we have to do is change that 2 to a 3. And now we've got the matrix cubed, right? Now we've got P3. So, the hardest part is just writing all those decimals. So, I just said I like 4, and so I'd probably be okay with 4, but I'm just going to go ahead and write them all right here, everything that I see. Uh-oh. Whew, I don't like that. I think in the future, let's just round to 4, unless it says otherwise, unless it tells you otherwise. But remember what we're talking about. We're talking about lower, middle, upper, lower, middle, upper. So keep that in mind. For the next question. B, find the probability that an upper class person has a middle class great grandchild. Okay, so we're going from upper to middle, and great grandchild was 3 transitions. Upper to middle in 3 transitions. So do you see that number? Upper to middle is right here, right? 0.487668. Now, part C, if you're ahead of me, you might have noticed a typo. There's a small typo there. Does anybody see it? I accidentally said grandchild. And so what does grandchild imply? Only 2 transitions. So, if I only did 2 transitions, that means I would need P2. And that's from the previous example, okay? So if I go probability from lower to lower in 2 transitions, I'm going to have to go back and look at the previous matrix where we did P2. Lower to lower was right there, 4729. And so we can do that. That's the answer. But honestly, I meant to put great-grandchild right here. Oh, I'm out of room. It says great-grandchild. Okay? And a great-grandchild is 3 transitions. So if you go probability from lower to lower in 3 transitions, now we can use this one. Lower to lower in 3 transitions is this number right here, 0.382481.